Beloved, February 27th, 2018, I was taken to some rooms where several preachers, well known today by the Adventist people, were preparing, and I saw them holding their heads and crying from the bottom of their hearts. So at that moment, I asked my companion, what happens to them? What do they have? Why do they have such great anguish? Then he answered me, they recognize the truth and know what they should do, but their duties of the world demand something else from them. Then I saw how others preached the truth 98%, but ended badly because they did not declare the Omega apostasy and the way out of it. Their desire for it made them blind to see that my presence is not there, he told me. So at that moment, there was a pause, and he said to me, listen and understand. There are different desires. Then he said to me, desire number 1, desire for power. Desire number 2, desire for acceptance. Desire number 3, desire for recognition. Desire number 4, desire for money. Then he continued by saying that for 3 sins he would reprimand, but for the 4th he would withdraw. So their desperation is for not having the courage to decide what they know to be correct. He replied, they were heralds of truth, but they fall for their pride and stubbornness. So at that moment that I received that explanation, we left there, and I was taken to another place. And I asked desperately, how can they not say the message of getting out of the apostasy if they know what awaits them? Then he answered me, the world and its acknowledgments attracts them more than anything. The thought of having more truth than others has magnified them, and not even the persecution that I allow against it makes them to wake up, to realize that even they must give up if they desire their salvation. My people are already out, he kept telling me, and they feed directly from me. I led them to feed themselves and feed my true people, but they insist on what is not their job. I have granted them a lot, and they have been emboldened, and they have risen up against me. I endowed them with knowledge and goods, and their heart is politically correct. Then at that moment, all my senses were awakened. Politically correct is a word that I have heard a lot in this time. Then my companion saw my amazement and said to me, do you know that term? And I said, yes, I know that term. Then he said to me, yes, I know. Many stars will fall for only one reason. So I asked, what is that reason? Please let me know what that reason is. And he said, because they revered their lives more. Politically correct, he told me again. To A, it is written. The exclusion and persecution was a test, but the explanation of the request for acceptance of the agreement is a betrayal of the one who granted them the gift. If they insist on being in harmony with the false, destruction will come and will be oppressed by their own desires. Then my heart trembled. All my insides trembled when I heard this, and put in scale what was being put in scale there. And then we left there, and I was taken to another place. There was an evangelistic campaign. I saw lights, sound, well, everything that we know of a campaign of the famous. Then I saw how in the pulpit these preachers who were there were enjoying themselves, but outside the stage they suffered from reality and disappointment. The preaching halfway and ambivalence made them feel the reprobate gaze of God. So I said to my companion, Why, if they were heralds sent in your name, what happened to them? Then at that moment my companion looked at me very sad and replied, They are more faithful to the system than to me. That is why they will fall if they do not amend and give the right sound to the trumpet. Their prestige emboldened them, and now it is difficult for them to admit their mistake. At that moment I was stunned. I saw many heralds in front of me. It was a parade of heralds from our Adventist ranks. I saw how then they were standing there, and as I was stunned, I saw many heralds of faith in front of me, that heaven had given them so much, and they paid by being loyal to men rather than to God. It was very sad. It was regrettable, this situation that I was seeing at that moment. And since I was there experiencing all this, we then went to another place. This place was now a little smaller. There were few people, but the word of God flowed with power and perfect accuracy. At that moment my ears were opened, and I heard the one who was preaching, and I heard when he said, Go out and do not touch the unclean. Let only God guide you to Canaan. Then at that moment my heart leaped for joy. There I heard how 100% pure truth was being preached, and heaven put its seal. Then I asked, Who is the preacher? Then he answered me, They are those invested by the power and spirit of Elijah. They do not have deceit in their mouth, and they guide the people on a safe path. They do not have titles and are not recognized, but heaven gave them its power and wisdom to guide others to the path of salvation. At that moment I rejoiced personally. I felt happy. I felt calm of knowing that did not have to filter words. Those words that were heard because there was no deception in it. Oh, what a happy moment, that in which didn't have to filter, said message. Then at that moment I woke up, beloved, very concerned to know that those who have been conferred to be heralds of God had decided to ingratiate themselves with the world, with their consents, with the apostasy, rather than with God. They preferred to ingratiate more with men than with it is written, and be loyal to the truth. May God grant that they can wake up and that they can realize that if they are where they are, it is because God has allowed them to have had that privilege, but that they can be loyal to the one who gave them the privilege and not loyal to a system, not loyal to men, but loyal to God. May the Lord bless you all.